Alright, in this video we're going to talk about creating invoices in QuickBooks. So you create an invoice when you are extending terms to your customer. Okay, so let's say you have an IT company, and the IT company comes into your office and they service your computers for a couple hours, and they set up your server for a few hours, and they mark down everything that they do. You don't pay them at the time of them completing the service. They go back to their office, they send you an invoice, right? And then on the invoice, it'll tell you how long you have to pay that invoice. Another idea, or another time people create an invoice, we have wholesale customers. They extend terms to their customers, or wholesale clients, and they extend terms to their customers. So what happens is, let's say they send out to their customer, boxes of water, as an example. They send out big crates of water, and the product leaves and goes out to their customer, and the customer has 30 days to pay the company back. So we're extending terms to them. They don't pay at the point of sale. They pay within 30 days or 15 days or whatever the terms are that you extend to your customers. Okay, so on an invoice, you're keeping it or holding the balance the customer owes you for a period of time in what's called accounts receivable. The other side, if you're not going to use invoicing, would be something where you take payment at the time of sale, right? So we have things like that. As an example, a plumbing service. A plumbing service goes out to somebody's home, they do the plumbing and repair work, and they take a payment at the point of completing the work, right? They don't extend payment terms to their customers necessarily. They take a payment as the work's completed on that same day, right? So nothing is in accounts receivable waiting for their customer to make a payment in the future. So in QuickBooks, we call that a sales receipt. Okay. Another example of a sale, when you use a sales receipt, is if you have a retail location. So somebody walks in, they buy a couple books, you're taking payment at the time of sale, right? So they walk in, they walk up to the counter, they show you the books that they want to purchase, they give you, two $20 bills, you give them some cash back. That's a sales receipt. You get paid at the time of sale. You're not going to wait until later to receive payment from that customer. Okay, so how do we create an invoice in QuickBooks? On the home screen here, we have Create Invoices. There's several ways to get to the Create Invoice area, or the invoice area. So I can come up here under Customers, Create Invoices. You can see I have a quick key, Control-I, and there's about 5 different ways to get there even on top of this, but I think that's enough for now. So I'm going to go ahead and create the invoice first, and then we're going to talk about some of these boxes up top. So notice that the cursor starts in the customer job area. I like following where the cursor starts instead of kind of, jumping around and clicking on all these things, because you'll forget, right, sometimes. So I like to put, start where the cursor starts, and then I use the tab key to go through the different fields I need to make sure I fill out. There's also a preference if you want to use it using the enter key. So make sure to watch the My Preferences video if you're interested in that. Okay, so customer, I can start typing, and as soon as I type a letter, I typed K, it'll give me a drop down of anything that begins with K. If I started with C, it'll give me a drop down again, anything that starts with C. This time I type CRU, so it takes me to Albert Cruz. Once I'm on the customer I want to work with, right, I can push the down key to get to the job if I am going to work on a different job for them. All right, or of course I can hit Add New here as well. But I'm just going to stick with Albert for now. I hit the Tab key and it takes me across to the class field. Okay. In Enterprise, you can set up classes to default at the name level, as an example. So this one defaulted to subcontractor, but I could change that class if I wanted to. The class up top here will also default fill in for me the classes once I get down below in this area of the invoice. Okay. Using tab, I'll continue on. If I'm going to use the Fourlane invoice template here, but I could change templates if I had multiple template types. Then we go to the date field. I'm going to leave it for today's date. The invoice number field, it will pick up the next number for us, right? So the last invoice was 1058B. This one is 1059B. We have the bill to address, the PO number field. So what's our customer's PO number they're providing us with? I have my terms box here. Again, it pre-fills in for me based on what I have set up at the customer level, but I do have the option to modify it. I can fill in the sales rep if I want, ship via, etc. So I'm just going to tab on through these fields here. Now again, if you see fields on here that you don't have available, or if you want to add additional fields, make sure to check out our video about customizing your forms. So I'm going to get down to the quantity side here. So I'm going to type in 20, and then tab on over to the item code. So items are the same as customers. If I start typing, let's see, I have them as numbers in here. If I start typing, it'll pull up for me the item, right? So I typed in 11, it pulls up for me 11. In Enterprise, we have the find and select area here, which I love. Okay, so if you have an extensive items list, this is so helpful. So I have the find here. Let's say I'm looking for framing. Oh, I have some framing, and let's pretend we have a whole long list there. And then I say, oh wait, but I want to have roof framing. So it'll do a search within a search for me. Now in this sample file, I have a short items list, so it's not as effective. But if you have a long items list, right, when I say search through all fields, it could take a while. So sometimes it's more helpful to narrow it down, like just search my description, just search a custom field as an example. One of the things I like about this as well is that if you frequently sell things together, right, so I can say search for framing again, and then I can add all three. Notice it marks them checked off already, so I just hit add, and it'll add all three to my invoice for me in a group, you know, not in a group like a group item, but all three get added easily. Okay, all the invoice information is going to fill in for me, meaning the description that I have set up at the item level, the price I have set up at the item level. If I have price levels set up for the customer or rules, make sure to check out those videos, they're more advanced. But obviously on this one is showing me I don't have default prices set up in here, so I have to go fill them in. Okay. The class field filled in, it defaulted from the class up top. If I needed to, I could take one of the lines and assign it into a different class or multiple. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in my quantity. And again, use the tab, say $15, and we'll say 14 hours of this at $25, and 15 at 30. Oops, I went past. One of the things that I love about QuickBooks, so let's say I know it's 30, you know, divided by 2 times 1.5, whatever it is. You can use it as a calculator field, and it'll do the calculations for you. The other thing I like is that if you know the amount, but you don't know the each price, you know, they say, oh, we're going to charge you $700 for that. And you know, you're going to do a $200 markup. So you say, I'm going to do $900, and it'll back into the price each for me. Okay, so one of the things I really like about QuickBooks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save this invoice. Okay, make sure and read all the pop-ups. By the way, that one said, hey, you changed the terms. Do you want to update the customer card with these different terms? Right, so you want to make sure that you read those. I said yes. You want to make sure that you actually want to do that. All right. Couple things on the invoice here. In Enterprise, you can sort by columns, or different versions of QuickBooks. You can sort by the columns here if you want to. So if you have a really long invoice, the only thing is that there isn't really an undo. So if I hit save, it'll be in this order. So there's no revert back to the original order that was, you know, in whatever order I chose originally once I hit save. Now, before I hit save, I can hit clear or revert down there, and it will go back to the original order. So just to make sure you know that. But once you hit that save, there's no undo. Okay, so you want to be aware when you're reorganizing or sorting by different columns in there. And sometimes you're kind of just clicking through looking, and you click on it accidentally, and usually there is a warning that'll pop up if you said, which I have said, so we don't get all these warnings in these videos, if you've said, do not show me this again, obviously it won't show it to you, and so you just have to be really aware. Okay. If you right click on a line, you can copy the line, and then I can come down below here and paste the line, right? You can also right click and insert a line or delete a line. There are quick keys for those two, so Control Insert will allow me to insert a line. Control Delete will allow me to delete a line. Down below here, it's going to keep track, right, what our totals are. So my total is $18.50. I have no payments applied to this invoice yet, so the balance due is $18.50. We also have the ability to use e-invoicing, which is another video coming up. So you can choose if you allow the customer to use e-invoicing down here. And then we have a customer message. So you can have some preset messages. Thank you for your business if you want. Of course, if you watch the customize your forms area, you'll also be able to see ways that you can just add that without having to choose a message down here. And then we have our memo field. The memo is an internal memo. It will show up on reports, but it will not print out to your customers. As with all transactions, on the right side over here, I have this little arrow that will allow me to drop down and see things. I have recent history for this customer down below here. I have any customer payments, whether or not they're allowed to pay online. And then I have customer summary up above here, so any sales orders that are outstanding, their total open balance. Notice it is a hyperlink, so if I click into it, it'll show me the entire balance for this customer. If there was anything past due, it would be here in red. I have the email. If you're hooked up through email, I can click this email and it'll open up Outlook for me. Phone number here, etc. We can have any notes. Again, this is an internal area. This is kept, these notes are kept at the customer level, right? Not the transaction level. So this is a, customer wide. I'm adding a time and date stamp and saying, don't take orders from Sally without talking to Peter. Okay, but again, it's a nice little place to have some internal notes. They also have the transaction tab. So on the transaction tab here, it gives me a summary of this transaction, when it was created. This is a sample file, so it thinks it's 2020. When it was last edited, and if I click this little button, it will take me to the audit trail for this transaction. Any related transactions would be kept here, right? So anything having to do with payments that are applied, we would be able to see the related transactions in there, and then notes on the transaction down below. Okay. Now taking me up top, so this is kind of new, a couple years back at least, in QuickBooks. So we have these different tabs on all of the transactions in QuickBooks now. Or most of the transactions, I should say, not all. So we have the main tab where we have previous and next, which we're used to. We do have the find on here, so I can find recent invoices. We have new, save, of course, save invoice, save as a PDF. We have delete or void in here. We have create a copy. Create a copy is going to duplicate, right? But move it to a new number, and then also you can modify it before you save it. So if a customer calls in and says, I want to order what I ordered last time, but I want to make this brief, this small modification, open up the last invoice, create a copy. It's a lot easier. We have memorize, so you want to make sure to watch the video on memorizing transactions. This allows us to auto post transactions if we need to. We can mark it pending. Okay, so if you mark it as a pending invoice, that means it's not posted. It will not remind you to go in and collect from this customer. However, it will leave it on a pending invoice list. So if you have sales in there that are pending, not ready to be finished, you can do it that way. Or you can take them off of being pending, right? You'll know it's pending because of this little orangish button there. We can print. Okay, print preview, invoice, packing slip, print shipping labels. We can email from here. If you do email out of QuickBooks, meaning you connect through your email service through QuickBooks, or if you have Outlook on your computer, it will put it on the sent email tab for the customer, which is really exciting. Okay. You can mark it to be printed later, so you can print them all in a batch at the end of the day. Mark it to be emailed later, so you can email them all in a batch at the end of the day. We can attach documents to QuickBooks, right? So I can drag and drop a document in here, or I can pick it up from my computer. So if I just pick up a document in here, right, here's my PDF, I can always go back and reference that in the future. Very helpful for if a customer sends over a copy of their PO or maybe an email attachment or anything. We can add time and costs if we're doing billable time, right, billing for time and materials. We can apply credits if they had a credit memo on account, receive payments, and then it also has some quick keys for creating batch invoicing or refunding and credit. This is also something fairly new, probably 4 years ago. So refund and credit, so you can take it to a credit memo and it'll copy the entire transaction. All right, moving over to the formatting tab. So here's where you can customize your data layout. Again, some of the other keys again, insert lines, paste lines. We have a spell check. We have the send and ship, so if you connect to USPS, UPS, FedEx. We have some reports having to do with this transaction, right? Transaction history, which will show us any payments, the transaction journal, which will show us the debits and credits. We have some other videos on that. And then also some other reports, right? Sales by customer, average days to pay. And then we have the search feature in here, which will search the existing transaction that I have open. Just searches through the description and the item code. So if I'm looking for floor, right, it'll highlight the field for me. Okay. All right. Also on this screen, so if I didn't want this little drop down on the side, I can hit that arrow. I can also hit this little arrow right here and kind of get rid of that top menu. And then I have the expand to get rid of everything. So if you just kind of want to see it much bigger, you need more lines to show up on your screen, make sure to use those little buttons as well. Okay, so that's how you create an invoice in QuickBooks.